Hey guys! Today I'll show you a horror thriller film named Cuckoo. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins in the dead of night when a couple is arguing inside their house. The camera slowly pulls back to reveal a girl with long hair, twitching uncontrollably on her bed. From the distant forest, eerie sounds can be faintly heard. The girl trembles as she exits the room. Perhaps she has received some mysterious signal as she follows the sounds into the forest, disappearing into the dark night. Soon after, a man emerges from the house, holding a phone. A male voice is heard on the other end, saying that without the chick nearby, the mother will be harder to control. It seems the girl's escape was something he deliberately caused, as he shows no concern, even casually shutting the door. The scene shifts to a highway, where Luis's family arrives at the Bavarian Alps in Germany, at the request of their friend, Herr. Herr is a nouveau riche who built a resort on this land. He invited Luis, a renowned architect, to help renovate the hotel. The family was supposed to travel together in one car, but instead, 2 vehicles were used. Gretchen, Luis's daughter, would rather squeeze into a truck with the movers than sit with her father and her stepmother, Beth. It's clear that Gretchen does not get along well with her newly formed family. Not long after they arrive at their destination, Herr had been waiting by the door, eager to greet them. Before Luis even steps out of the car, Herr approaches for a quick greeting. The last time Luis and his wife visited was almost 8 years ago. That was when they had their daughter, Alma. However, Alma was born mute. Herr speaks to Alma in German, which makes the young girl laugh. The group is lively, except for Gretchen, who looks downcast. Recently, her biological mother passed away, making her feel like she no longer has a home. Gretchen enters the bathroom, and as she prepares to use the toilet, someone unexpectedly tries to force open her stall door. She instinctively assumes it's her stepmother. Gretchen says someone's inside, and the person outside stops and moves to another stall. But from the shadow on the floor, it seems the person wasn't there to use the toilet at all. The figure is standing with her feet off the ground, seemingly about to recreate a sinister, voyeuristic scenario. Just then, Beth bursts into the restroom, urging Gretchen to hurry. This interruption prevents the intruder from continuing her actions. Gretchen, still unnerved, quickly pulls up her pants and hurries out. The figure in heels steps down from the stall. It seems the intruder might have been a woman. Luis's family settles into the quiet resort hotel under Herr's arrangements. Gretchen hides some money and a knife beneath the mattress in her room, then calls her mother's phone, hoping to hear her voice on the voicemail. It turns out that Gretchen is saving up to become independent and leave her father, planning to return to the old family home. As she talks to herself about her plans, her father walks in. He notices her troubled expression and tries to offer comforting words, but he's interrupted by Herr's sudden entrance. Herr invites Gretchen to work at the hotel's front desk, promising to pay her. With nothing else to do, she agrees. The next day, she starts working. Gretchen learns some basic details about the resort from her co-worker, Trixie. The hotel consists of standalone cabins scattered along the mountain paths. Herr's mansion sits at the highest point of the mountain, offering a panoramic view that allows him to keep an eye on all the guests. While they're talking, a woman suddenly vomits. Trixie doesn't seem surprised. Such things happen often. Herr is also unfazed, though he tells Gretchen to finish early since the mountain roads are unsafe at night. The night shift will be handled by Trixie, who has a car, and finds it more convenient. Herr then criticizes Trixie for playing her car music too loudly, disturbing the wild animals in the forest. Through the window, Gretchen notices a white sedan parked at the entrance. A middle-aged man with a thick beard is sitting in the car, looking at a map, his eyes darting around as if he's scouting something. After a day's work, Gretchen returns to her room, lying on the bed with her headphones on, playing the guitar. Alma enters, imitating her sister and trying to play as well. Ever since Gretchen moved in with them, Alma has developed a love for music. But suddenly, a strange noise comes from the forest, like an eerie bird call. The camera focuses on a woman's trembling throat. Alma seems to sense something and begins to convulse. Gretchen is startled by Alma's sudden intrusion and notices her sister's odd condition. She rushes over to check on her. However, when she removes her headphones, time seems to loop. Gretchen's actions freeze in a glitch-like bug, repeating the motion of taking off her headphones several times. Finally, she manages to put her hand on Alma's shoulder, only for Alma to slap her across the face with surprising force. The noise abruptly stops, and their parents, hearing the commotion, rush in. No one cares about Gretchen's injury. They're only focused on comforting the frightened Alma. Gretchen even receives an unwarranted slap. The next day at work, Gretchen is in a bad mood, filled with frustration and unable to keep it in. She confides in Trixie. That's when we learn that Alma has a twin sister who was swallowed by Alma while still in their mother's womb. This condition is known as vanishing twin syndrome. Today, Gretchen covers Trixie's night shift to give her some free time for a date. Before leaving, Trixie warns her to lock up at exactly 10 p.m. sharp. It's the rule here. That night, Gretchen, bored out of her mind, lies on her workstation, nodding off. Just then, a guest arrives to check in. Her name is Ed, and she immediately notices Gretchen isn't from around here. She asks if she likes music, and after her affirmative answer, she invites her to Paris. The two share a brief moment, their hands touching in an undeniably flirtatious atmosphere. At that moment, a woman in white approaches the shelf and suddenly vomits uncontrollably. She then grabs a drink and chugs it, leaving both of them in shock, especially Ed, who is new to the place. Gretchen considers checking on her, but her boss suddenly calls, and he realizes the two girls must have switched shifts secretly. Hare is about to come to pick her up, but the roads are dark and slippery, and Gretchen doesn't trust anyone but herself. She politely declines Hare's offer, quickly locks the hotel doors and windows, and leaves on her bike. Just as Gretchen departs, Hare arrives, discovers she's gone, curses, and pulls out a flute, beginning to play. Gretchen cycles along the pitch-black mountain road, and not long after, a strange woman emerges from a nearby house. The eerie sound of the flute echoes through the mountains as the woman speeds up, getting closer and closer to Gretchen. Through the shadows, Gretchen sees someone behind her, reaching out to grab her. She glances back and sees a wild-eyed woman running and howling, resembling a beast. Gretchen senses danger and pedals harder, trying to outrun the woman, but she sticks to her like glue. Passing the resort's first aid center, Gretchen instinctively heads for help, but her clumsy actions result in her head hitting something, allowing the woman to catch up. Fortunately, a police car appears just in time, and the medical staff opens the door, scaring the woman away. As Gretchen stitches up her wound, she tells Officer Eric about the strange events of the night. Eric doesn't take it too seriously, brushing it off as some prank. At that moment, their parents push Alma past the hospital room. Gretchen sees them and runs out after them. Luis is surprised to see his daughter and, noticing the wound on her forehead, asks if she tripped, but his attention quickly shifts to Alma, who has suddenly developed seizures. Beth's loud call easily redirects Luis's focus from Gretchen to Alma. The doctor informs the parents that Alma's seizures could be caused by recent family turmoil. The doctor then turns to look at Gretchen, and Luis also eyes her, making it seem like all of this is somehow her fault for pushing Alma aside. Gretchen, feeling unjustly accused, dials her mother's number and complains about Alma's strange behavior, leading the whole family to blame her. Gretchen goes to work as usual, still patched up from the previous incident. A middle-aged man enters the store, and yes, it's the same one who was sitting in the car looking at a map earlier. Upon seeing Gretchen, he immediately pulls out his ID to identify himself. His name is Henry, and he's a police investigator. He's currently investigating the strange woman, but before they can discuss it further, Ed interrupts. Since it's during Gretchen's work hours, Henry agrees to come back later. Ed is there to check out, and Gretchen secretly waives the room fee for her. The two women then stand beneath a tree, casually smoking, their proximity creating an almost flirtatious atmosphere. At Ed's invitation, Gretchen packs her things, swipes some money from the front desk, and runs off with her. As the car drives along the mountain road, eerie sound waves echo again. The two women find themselves caught in a loop, repeating the same actions and lines. Gretchen feels a sense of confusion, but she can't pinpoint what's wrong. Just then, a figure appears on the dark road. Gretchen screams, and the car swerves off the road as it suddenly brakes hard. After a dizzying moment, Gretchen is left bloodied from the crash, but still conscious. However, when she opens her eyes, the strange woman is back outside the car. Accompanied by a shrill sound, the woman violently tugs at the car door, targeting Gretchen. Fortunately, other vehicles arrive, and after 2 gunshots, everything goes silent. When Gretchen opens her eyes again, she's bandaged up and lying in a hospital bed. Hare brings her some food and warns her in a threatening tone to behave and not cause any more trouble. Luis enters, forcing Hare to end the conversation and leave the room. With just father and daughter left, Luis is furious, accusing Gretchen of causing trouble and putting her sister in danger. Luis lists Gretchen's wrongdoings, eating plants, stealing money, running away with a stranger, and wonders which 17-year-old girl would do such reckless things. He tells her she'll never get an allowance again. With no one to confide in and no one to ease her pain, Gretchen leaves voice messages for her deceased mother whenever she feels neglected or upset by her father. It seems that talking to the family on the other end of the phone gives her some comfort and energy. Late at night, Henry quietly arrives at her bedside. He says it was him who saved Gretchen, having seen the strange woman. However, to catch her, he needs Gretchen's cooperation. Henry promises to protect her and take her anywhere she wants once the case is resolved. Their investigation continues in secret. According to a lead from Henry, a couple came to the area a month ago for a vacation, and they also encountered the strange woman during the night. The woman's voice had a hypnotic effect on the husband, causing him to lose consciousness intermittently, while the wife had a much worse fate. She was found suffocated after vomiting. Gretchen recalls the white-clad woman she encountered in the lobby, who had similar symptoms of vomiting. Henry asks where the woman had stayed, and Gretchen remembers that all the couples who had issues had stayed at the same cabin. To confirm this theory, Henry and Gretchen decide to stake out near the cabin. Coincidentally, Trixie checks in that night. However, her police boyfriend, Eric, seems to suspect something is wrong with the cabin and urgently tells Trixie to pack and leave, but it's too late. The eerie bird call sounds again, and Trixie and Eric enter the loop. Suddenly, the strange woman appears at the door. Trixie faints in fear, and her shrill chicken scream pierces the night. Hearing the commotion, Henry immediately takes action. To avoid alerting the woman, he chooses to circle around the window to observe. By this time, Trixie has been controlled by the strange woman. She frantically rubs her greasy legs, then loses consciousness and falls onto the bed. The strange woman reaches between Trixie's legs to pull out a transparent liquid and is about to continue when Gretchen bursts in. The strange woman begins screaming desperately to fend off Gretchen. Fortunately, Henry arrives in time and shoots the woman several times. She escapes through the window and disappears into the woods. The next day, Gretchen wakes up back at the resort hotel, where Hare is spending time with Alma. Gretchen feels something's off about this place, since strange things keep happening, but no one's investigating. She questions Hare about the hotel's mandatory 10 p.m. closing time at the front desk. What's with the women who were vomiting? What's the real reason they invited her family here? Hare doesn't answer directly. Instead, he pulls out a flute rather than his smelly sausage and starts playing. Luis can't take it anymore and accuses Gretchen of making a scene. Father and daughter get into a heated argument. Hare steps in, attempting to smooth things over, but really, he's just trying to deepen the rift between them. He points to a box and says it's a surprise for Gretchen. Inside are her mother's belongings. It turns out that Luis sold the old house without telling Gretchen. All the voicemail messages she had left for her mother were recorded on a cassette tape. With the house gone, all her last memories are lost. Gretchen feels utterly helpless, playing the old messages from her mother over and over. To her surprise, she hears Alma's voice on one of the tapes. Alma had also been leaving messages for their mother. It dawns on Gretchen that Alma has always been worried about her. Compared to Luis's love, Alma's concern feels more sincere. Now Gretchen has a new goal. She wants to take Alma and get out of this cursed place. But when she steps out of her room, she finds that the entire house is empty. Alma is having another seizure, and the whole family is at the hospital, leaving Hare alone. He offers to take Gretchen to the train station and promises her some travel money. Before leaving, Gretchen writes a note telling her father not to come looking for her. Before she departs, she needs to stop by Hare's house to pick up the money. When they finally reach the infamous estate, the car comes to a stop. Hare, who fancies himself an expert in animal conservation, points to a cuckoo sticker on the car and starts explaining how cuckoos are a fascinating species and their behavior is so unusual that humans should help them thrive. Under Hare's lead, Gretchen enters the estate, but to her surprise, Henry is there too. Henry is in a battered state. He was dismissed from his police position for carrying an illegal weapon and trespassing while investigating a case related to himself. The only real officer here is Trixie's boyfriend Eric, but he's just Hare's lackey. Henry's involvement in the case raises questions. Does he have a story of his own? It turns out that Henry and his wife also stayed at the cabin before and encountered the same strange events. At the time, Henry couldn't make sense of it and helplessly watched his wife suffocate from the vomit. His obsession with investigating this case led to his dismissal, but Hare doesn't care. To him, Henry is irrelevant. Here, Hare is the ruler. Even the police force answers to him. Hare leads Gretchen to a secret room with a huge pit in the middle. There are chairs, a table, and a single bed set up around it. Gretchen senses something is wrong and tries to leave, but before she can, she's sprayed with an unknown liquid. Hare explains it's just some pheromones and that he's giving her a chance to play a key role in protecting the animals. They can't speak like humans, but with training, their songs can control people's minds. Then Hare pulls out his flute and blows into it. The eerie bird call echoes again, and a girl with wild hair starts walking toward the secret room. It's the same girl who ran out of the house at the beginning of the film. The scene terrifies Gretchen, who quickly grabs a bedboard as a weapon, but the powerful sound waves send time into a loop once more. Just as Gretchen tries to defend herself, the girl sneaks up behind her and knocks her unconscious. As the girl lifts Gretchen, their eyes meet, and there's a moment of tenderness, as if they recognize each other. Hare motions for the girl to stay focused, then blows the short flute again. Under the influence of the music, the girl loses control and slams Gretchen onto the bed. Gretchen rubs her legs, the same way Trixie did that night, and the girl pulls out a transparent liquid from her body. Just as she's about to proceed, Hare stops playing the flute, and the girl halts. Hare selects a golden wig and carefully places it on the girl's head, excitedly remarking that his dream is about to come true. He urges Gretchen to hurry and tells her father to finish fixing the cabin quickly so they can use it as a breeding ground for the girl. Hare blames everything on the girl's mother. Before she could prepare another successor, she left the cabin after a fight with her husband, breaking free from Hare's control and ruining all his efforts. The cuckoo's egg-laying ritual is a sacred process, and the family philosophy of these creatures far exceeds human understanding. Hare tells Eric to quickly arrange for Trixie to become pregnant. Finally, Hare plans to silence Gretchen, but just in time Henry arrives and shoots the girl dead with 2 quick shots. Hare disappears, and Henry manages to rescue Gretchen. It's now 10 p.m., the time when Hare performs his rituals every night. Henry had just learned from Hare's conversation that he's conducting a cross-species fertilization experiment based on the cuckoo's survival rules. Cuckoos are evil creatures. When they give birth, they lay their eggs in other birds' nests and let the other birds raise their young. This is how they ensure their survival and reproduction. As for Hare, he's implanting bird genes in women. When they hear the harsh sound waves, their consciousness is completely controlled, and they must seek out other bodies for reproduction. Hare's flute is the key to controlling their behavior. Henry then notices a photo in Gretchen's pocket. It's a picture of her father, Luis, and her stepmother, Beth, taken during their honeymoon here 8 years ago. Gretchen suddenly realizes that Alma, who was born mute, is also a cuckoo child. Beth is merely her surrogate mother. As Alma's biological mother gets closer, the surrogate mother begins to feel physical discomfort. So, Luis and Beth, the foster parents, are sent away from the hospital. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Henry and Gretchen rush to the hospital, where 2 researchers are recording experimental data. Compared to purebred animals, human cuckoos have evolved a unique trait. They don't fully leave their offspring to be raised by surrogate parents. Instead, they return to claim their children, interacting with the birth mother. This greatly accelerates the offspring's physical development and enhances their abilities. Soon, Hare arrives, exposing the 2 researchers for recording data without following his orders. For such insubordination, Hare decides it's time for them to meet their end. As things unravel, the increasingly deranged Hare approaches Alma with a gun. Gretchen doesn't want Alma to get hurt and insists on saving her. Henry tries to make her see the truth, that the person in front of her isn't her sister but a cuckoo child. To stop Gretchen, Henry holds her tightly and they struggle. In the chaos, Gretchen pulls out a folding knife and stabs Henry in the abdomen. After successfully breaking free, Gretchen stumbles into the observation room, wakes Alma, and untangles the wires from her head. Meanwhile, Hare is destroying the evidence. They need to leave before they're discovered, but it won't be easy. The hospital fills with the eerie bird calls. At first, the sound waves are faint, and Alma only shows slight reactions. But as the strange woman appears in the hallway, the noise intensifies, and Alma begins to shake uncontrollably. Gretchen holds the knife to Alma, and the noise immediately stops. She knows the strange woman won't make a move, but unexpectedly, Alma pushes Gretchen away. The strange woman seizes the opportunity and lets out a sharp, piercing scream. Gretchen and Alma hide in the archive room, but the strange woman follows them and can't find them. The woman tries to use the bird calls to flush them out, but fails. It turns out Gretchen had prepared by putting on headphones early to block out the sound. At this moment, Henry enters and turns on the lights, creating a 3-way standoff. Unable to lock onto a target, Henry knocks over the entire bookshelf. The loud noise forces Alma to reveal herself and run out. Just as she exits, she runs into Hare, who seems kind, but Alma doesn't know that Hare is a bad man. Fortunately, Henry follows closely behind, and a gunfight ensues. Meanwhile, Gretchen, having avoided the sound wave attack, quickly stabs the strange woman. The woman falls to the ground, revealing the near-bald head beneath her golden wig. The standoff between Henry and Hare continues. Gretchen locates her sister Alma and throws the bloodied wig at Hare, telling him that the experiment's surrogate mother is dead and that continuing the gunfight is pointless. But instead of stopping, Hare loses control and starts wildly shooting at both Gretchen and Henry. Amid the chaos, Gretchen finds Alma, who is hiding in a corner covering her ears. Gretchen reassures her sister not to be afraid, telling her that she would never harm her. However, Alma is still on edge, unsure whether to trust Hare or her sister. At a critical moment, Gretchen uses sign language to tell Alma that their mother received Alma's voicemail and thanked her. With a silent thank you, the two sisters embrace. After easing Alma's fears, Gretchen picks her up and they walk out. On one side is Hare's manipulation, on the other is Henry's condemnation. But Gretchen remains resolute. She is determined to take her sister and leave. The four of them reach an impasse. At that moment, Alma covers her sister's ears, her throat vibrating as she releases a strange bird-like cry. Under this sonic attack, both Henry and Hare begin to lose their grip on reality, and Gretchen and Alma seize the opportunity to escape. After a night full of tension and fear, by the time they make it outside, it's already bright and sunny. Ed has been waiting for them, and the three of them get into the car, leaving the place for good. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.